All right, welcome back. This is going to be a silent walkthrough of this. I'm not going to comment on this deck. This is one that my sister gave me, the Dark Abyss. She kept the white one and gifted me this. So this is in one of my haul videos. But I thought I would use this opportunity. I actually did something that was kind of like a podcast. I was just talking and I recorded myself talking about something that I think is actually important. And I don't think enough of us are talking about it, is what it's stuff behind the scenes that we struggle with, and it is mental health related. So grab yourself a cup of coffee, or maybe listen to this while you're driving, but it's more to listen to. But I thought for those that are watching, that I'll give you something to look at. All right, so let's get into it. Welcome back to Miss Kulala's Mystical Musings. Today I want to talk about something that might be a little bit confusing to some, and others might actually recognize it as something you might be dealing with yourself. I'm going to treat this kind of like a podcast. So what I want to talk about today is ADHD and what it might look like in a content creator. Speaking for myself, I've never been diagnosed professionally with ADHD, but my daughters have been, and my youngest granddaughter is autistic. So I've definitely done my research in this area, and I'm not self-diagnosing myself either. But it's just, yourself, right? Especially like myself, who is on or has been on a journey of self-discovery. My mission is to know thyself, right? There's been a lot of discussion, I think, that I've noticed in the community about how we show up for each other. And one of the things that I'm not hearing is, what does ADHD look like in a content creator? I know we've had lots of talks in the community about emotional intelligence, and that is very important when we are considering how we treat each other in these communities. I consider myself a small channel. I think I blew up at the beginning of the year because I learned how to use the promotion button. Now, I have slacked off on that on purpose, because if you don't use the promotion button, well, then you just don't get pushed out into the algorithm. So, a little bit of this is just my advice, disclaimer, is if you haven't used it, don't use it. The algorithm will get used to you without it, I think. And if it's used to you with it, then it's going to have to get used to you without it if you don't use it, and you're still going to probably lose. That's just my opinion. No actual research to back that one up. But anyway, going forward, I still consider myself a small channel. My community is fairly small. Now, I have community outside of YouTube. I have ladies that I talk to almost every day, and it's a a fairly big circle, but it's a handful of us that actually talk to each other pretty much every day. And then there's times where I slack, but there's still it's quite a large group of ladies, but I mean, there's a handful that are consistently, participating every day is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. And I think that, how we communicate with each other on YouTube is important. I really do. I think that how we engage with each other is important, but I also think that, you know, there are different archetypes out there, and neurodivergence, I think, runs in this community, or this, like the type of content that you are consuming in this community, I would consider is, magical, witchy, tarot related, divination, spirituality. I think you get the idea of what I'm referring to. That's the type of people you might find in this community, in my opinion, are probably highly neurodivergent. And there are many things that can fall under that umbrella. And speaking from experience, ADHD, I feel like, is a big one. So that's what I'm choosing to speak on today. So with a little research, I was kind of thinking, what would that look like in a content creator, right? And what's that question that we've asked ourselves so many times in, someone will create a hashtag, a witchy hashtag, or a tarot hashtag, and we always ask each other, well, what is your channel for? What do you want your channel for? Because that's the biggest thing, right? We have to decide what it is we want from our channel, and that's what we accept, right? Well, what if you want all these things, but then other things, and I don't want to say excuses on, excusing behavior, but ADHD is a real thing. And like for myself, I don't have an actual diagnosis, but I know who I am and I know what I'm capable of. So what does ADHD look like? Some people might imagine ADHD as chaotic energy, talking fast, distraction, missing deadlines, or being impulsive. But in a content creator, especially a woman who has spent decades of masking, mothering, working, and managing others people's needs, it looks like something very different. One, you have the drive to belong, and then the freeze response. You want to be part of the community. You want the engagement. You want to comment back. You care, right? But when the moment comes, your nervous system goes, not now, too much, too loud, and then you freeze. This is executive dysfunction mixed with emotional overload. It's not laziness, it's not a lack of gratitude, and it's not arrogance. Now, we're going to have two points of view on this. For someone that may not understand what ADHD looks like because they don't understand what it feels like, they might see that and think, well, that creator doesn't care. And because of that question that we keep asking ourselves, what do we want this channel for? So if you know you have ADHD, or you know yourself well enough to know that you have these tendencies, does that mean you shouldn't have a channel? Should you not have a YouTube channel? Because there's going to come times that you just can't handle the interaction, the interactive part of it, right? So you've made your time, you've made the video, but then, your ADHD or symptoms of dissociation come into play, and you're not able or you find yourself not able, or you make the choice to not interact, whatever the reason might be. But if it's ADHD, you'll start to see a pattern, right? At least I have. So people without these patterns might assume and say things like, if you cared, you would respond. And I've heard it. I've also thought it. Okay. But that's not true for neurodivergent wiring. And speaking of myself, because the only thing I can think of is because I've masked so long, I do push through a lot of things. But at the end of it, when I check out, I'm zoned out, I'm done. And it takes a while to come back from that. So let's talk about masked overwhelm. Women with children often become experts at suppressing their internal chaos because the kids need things, the grandchildren need things, the house needs things, the job needs things, the world expects emotional labor. So you train your brain to say, you don't get to collapse, you don't get to fall apart, meaning the overwhelm has to leak somewhere. And it leaks in the places with no immediate consequences, which could be watching someone else's video to comment. You might be able to get through the video, say the support goes both ways. You might be able to get through the video, but then all of a sudden you're either distracted or you don't make the time to comment. So it shows up in not just responding to your own comments, but commenting on someone else's video, replying to DMs, catching up on other people's videos, again, group chats, finishing conversations, not because you don't care, but because there is no survival threat if you delay. But then you have the cycle of guilt. So you push back because you're numb. Then you feel bad you haven't done it. You feel bad because you haven't responded. Then the backlog grows. Then you feel even worse. This is called executive paralysis plus shame spiral. It's so common in ADHD that there are entire research papers about it. So why am I talking about this? Because I think that it's important to understand everyone in the community, right? To bring this awareness, because I myself am not seeing it talked about enough, but I can see it. And with the groups that I have outside of my YouTube channel, I hear it. So it's not just myself. Okay, so let's talk about dissociation. You've heard me talk about it already and that I struggle with that. So let's say I don't use that ADHD label at all. The dissociation patterns fit into this perfectly. My brain taps out to protect me from internal overload. Not because the tasks are objectively hard, but because my mind runs all the simulations at once. I'm thinking about the dishes, the laundry, work tomorrow. Work for me is, getting up and starting my day with breakfast. The alarm goes off. I get breakfast and I get dressed. I take the children to school. Lennox is still home. She goes to school, at 11 o'clock, so I mean, I get a couple hours in between, but it's really, it's a couple hours. It's like I have a routine and it's to the minute. I'm thinking about the grandkids' needs, what they're going to need, whether I forgot something important. the comment I meant to leave yesterday, or that bill that needs to be paid, or the weird dream that I had, content ideas, spiritual downloads, my sisterhood chat, my new deck that I'm working on, what's for dinner, my doctor appointment that's coming up, Lennox, my daughter's feelings, all of them. A friend that might have texted, getting to another creator's video because I know they commented on mine, the comment section. And again, the guilt. My brain is busy even when nothing is happening. So by the end of the day, I'm not lazy. I'm tired. I don't even have the energy to be social. And that's a symptom of cognitive exhaustion. Dissociation in your system is saying, we're at capacity. Goodbye. You know, before I came to this community, being a musician, I could take the stage and give the performance of my life, okay? But then for 3 days afterwards, I would be, it took energy to talk. And it's like the more that I understand about who I am, the more I understand that. And nothing has really changed. Even this discussion right here, once I've edited all the stuff out of it, you know, hopefully you're hearing the polished version right now. I will have done a massive thing in my mind. And again, all these other things haven't stopped going through my mind at the same time. So, why does this matter in content creation? So, a larger channel that might get an abundance of comments, say over the 500 mark, I could see not responding just because of that, you know. But that doesn't change how that would make the person that's commenting on that video, that larger creator just decides, okay, I have made this video and that's my contribution and that's it, I'm done. You know, the person commenting is still going to feel that disappointment. They're still going to be affected by that. And they might consider that large content creator part of their community. And so, especially if they do have a smaller channel, us smaller creators, we do depend on community, right? We do. Comments are how we form relationships. Engagement is a sign of respect. Answering 8 comments, though, is not the same as answering 8,000. That's a major exaggeration. You know, I myself am nowhere near that. I'm lucky if I get 20 comments. And usually it is the same people that are commenting because I'm trying to go to their channels and show them the same support. And believe me when I say that is my end game, is to always support those that come to my channel and support me, because I do feel like that's important. My guilt comes in is if I don't get to the people that are commenting on my video, if I don't get to watch their videos right away because I'm overloaded in everything that I have going on during the day. Knowing that these things aren't always going to be like they are now, because with my level of what I would call ADHD, without an official diagnosis, but I definitely dissociate. When I had my routine down, you know, I had my mornings free because I was watching children in the evening. So when I had that down, I was able to keep a routine of producing a video every 2-3 days and then watching the people's or the fellow content creators that would comment, going and watching their content. And then life happened again, and the time that I had to do that became significantly less. And just like I said, now there's more that I'm thinking that I have to do every day. Even if I do get those, if I do get some of those hours back that I lost, that overwhelm is still there. So I haven't worked through it. So I guess getting back to the difference in comments, I think the scale does change everything when you are thinking of a small channel compared to a big channel. But then there are truths to even a small channel if the content creator has ADHD, right? So when someone has those ADHD traits, burnout happens at any scale. I think that's where I was trying to go with that. So even if it's 5 comments, 50 comments, 500 comments, or again, watching someone else's video and commenting, it's not about the number, it's about the headspace. And we have to find ourselves back in that headspace where we can communicate or engage with others. So what does the neurodivergent burnout look like online? I think burnout in a creator with ADHD traits often shows up as weeks of posting daily, then disappearing, then reappearing with intensity, then emotional exhaustion, then guilt, then silence. Now, I have 3 daughters, 2 of them diagnosed with ADHD. One takes medicine, the other doesn't. The one that's taking the medicine is able to do everything that she needs to do when she takes her medicine. The one that doesn't is checked out most of the time. So that would be a whole other topic. Okay. Managing ADHD without medicine, managing ADHD with medicine. So back to, what it looks like. So you have the guilt, and then you have the silence, and then hyper focus content sprints. I know that you have seen that in myself. Then collapse. You get massive creative ideas, possibly 0 follow through, or follow through comes months later. That has definitely been in my experience. And wanting to reply, but procrastinating in shame. So people might assume that inconsistency means that you don't care. But the truth is inconsistency is often emotional survival. So let's talk about authentic self-disclosure without oversharing. One of the things that I believe is that instead of excuses, what if we just said, I'm struggling in this area today. That's it. So being truthful about what you are feeling or dealing with your audience or, with your community. So here are some phrases that I think might help, little maybe gentle boundary statements that maybe we can use. And I'm going to try this, and maybe it can help anyone else. One could be, thank you for your comments. I read everything, even when I can't reply either now or I will reply later type thing. It's just letting people know. And I will myself try to be better about it. It's just being honest, right? It's just being honest. Dissociation is something that I have currently realized, like within the past month, that it's something real that I am struggling with. Something else is I'm not always able to answer comments, but your voice matters. And I think a larger creator did say that. And I think that's important. Again, honesty, right? I appreciate you even when my brain is offline. Again, being honest about what you're struggling with, whether it's dissociation, any type of mental, like I think ADHD can be very debilitating if not managed properly, right? And that can be different for everyone. So I think it's just being honest about that, because again, that's like trying to tell someone that does struggle with these, well, you shouldn't have a YouTube channel if you're struggling with these things. No, that's horseshit. That's horseshit. So, we shouldn't be apologizing for these things, but we should be clear. We don't need to over explain and we don't need to justify, but we can bring awareness. And that's really what I'm trying to do. Or transparency. Next, we could probably preset expectations in our channel culture. Like, I might do community engagement in burst, which is the truth. I actually talked about this with my sister. With my Apple iPad, and my YouTube studio, I have the community engagement, and I can go through and see who all has commented, even though it's not the same video. They will still show me all my comments, and then I can go through and do that all at the same time. Because again, I'm in the headspace for it instead of trying to catch every comment as it comes in. So I might not always reply right away, but I definitely value every word that comes through. I will show up when I have the capacity. And again, just being clear about it, right? And hopefully that protects us from having those internal guilt battles, because guilt isn't the best place to operate from, in my opinion. I don't think I'm alone in that. So again, I have also been tossing around the idea of whether getting a diagnosis matters or not, right? Should I? I'm 56 years old. My goal isn't medication. I'm I feel like I'm 56 and I have managed my life fairly well. So again, I think bringing awareness that this is a real thing. And I think that, again, neurodivergence is something that you might see a lot of in this community. Paperwork, the paperwork that comes along with the diagnosis, do I want to deal with that? I don't know. So again, my goal is self-awareness, self-permission, compassion, understanding my own patterns, and maybe helping someone to understand theirs, creating systems to support my nervous system. So a diagnosis is still optional, but I haven't decided that yet. And I think that's completely okay. We're bringing awareness. I think that's what's important right now. I think that a diagnosis matters for some people. I can tell you that getting a diagnosis for my granddaughter, who is 5, was extremely important, because now she's getting every opportunity to help her communicate is more available to her now with the diagnosis than it would be without one. but it doesn't have to be necessary for everyone. And I think I'm in that area right there. My daughters have benefited, I think, because they're young. Um, Faith is actually trying to get um, treatment for hers. So, um, again, I've got 55 years already of coping strategies behind me. I think understanding what's going on just lets me name it, talk about it, release shame. That's a big one. Stop blaming myself. If you're dealing with similar things, stop blaming yourself. Connect with others who might have the same things going on and shift your expectations for yourself, because of the awareness. I think that alone is valuable. I think there are maybe some practical tools for creators with ADHD or dissociation. Um, so, what can we do? Uh, this is something I do now. It's batch commenting. So, it's more than once a week, but I reply to everything that I can in like I allot a certain amount of time, and then I stop. Like I do whatever comments I have in that time, and once that's done, that's done. And then I know that if someone comments after that period of time, then that's going to have to wait for the next batch. You know what I mean? I think that avoids daily guilt, daily overwhelm, or daily pressure. Maybe this is something I could start doing is put it in my pinned comment, because I definitely try to do that for quote unquote SEO grades. um, Say something like, my brain works in waves. I read everything when I can reply, and thank you for being here. And it will kind of set the tone, right? It will teach my audience, I think, that engagement is not love, and that silence is not rejection. And maybe we can normalize a quiet support when we are aware of these things. I don't think it's an excuse. We don't want to excuse bad behavior, right? But awareness of a mental struggle is not bad behavior. So it's identifying the difference there too. Because I don't know. Let's talk about it in the comments. Who's talking about this? Let's share this. Let's who's talking about ADHD and what it looks like in a content creator. Let's talk about that. So instead of that shame spiral, we're naming the pattern. We're interrupting that guilt. Choosing one step at a time. Choosing rest. And then there's not a whole bunch of steps at one time. There's just one. Be honest with yourself, right? Commenting today might drain me and take away from the part of my life that needs me. And that truth removes the inner war. I think that's really well, there is one more thing that I would like to talk about. One of the things that I have struggled with is knowing these things about myself. I feel like because of not having a diagnosis, also, it's not recognized. And I feel like I'm not allowed to have ADHD. And I think that that might be profound for a lot of people that may not have a diagnosis, or even if they do, especially if they have a lot of responsibility. Women of this generation probably were not allowed to be overwhelmed, to be distracted, to struggle, to shut down, to say no. to not carry everything for everyone, right? So we masked for necessity. And now I'm a creator with grandchildren, a full home, emotional labor, spiritual work, and a YouTube channel. The cracks are going to show in one place where I don't have to be perfect, and that might be replying to comments or showing up socially, engaging constantly, but that doesn't mean that I'm failing. Our brains should be safe enough to show us the truth, right? Or we should feel safe enough. That's a big thing, right? To when it comes to honesty. And we can't lie to ourselves. Understand what's happening now. And I think that makes this topic very, very powerful. I think it's something that needs to be talked about more. Because we are who we are, and the things that we struggle with are real. And so I hope that this helps whoever's listening. I don't want to ramble on too much, but I would love to continue the conversation in the comments, and maybe we could expand upon this. So let me know what you think, and if you've ever considered what ADHD might look like in a content creator. Because again, engaging with our audience and engaging with the community is important. It really is. And so if you're not doing that, it's understandable how that might look and feel to the people that are doing the engaging and the supporting and giving that support. I have plenty of friends who are extremely supportive. And because of that, someone who's still struggling with comparing themselves might internalize that and can turn into shame and guilt, and then hence the spiral. I think there's many things to be considered on this, especially if you know someone and I think this gives you or anyone else the opportunity to talk more about it. So I'm going to leave you with that. This was already pretty long, and if you listened all the way through, I want to say thank you. And I appreciate you. And hopefully I'll see you in the comments section very shortly. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Again, thank you for being here.